Okay. So I've decided to start a vlog about the whole educational Oh, wait a second. I have on no makeup. Give me just a second. Okay. Wait a second. Okay. Only took a second, right? So, as I was saying, I've decided to start a vlog about my journey to, or my quest for the perfect education or methods of education for my children. And my boys are now in 4th and 5th grades. They are 9.5 and 11. And two totally different kids. You know, people talk about how different their children are. My children, two totally different kids. I've done, let's see, we started out in like my first one, he stayed home with me for about 2 years before I left the home. I've been self-employed for many years I don't know, let's see, this is 2015. Been self-employed since 1998. And I briefly took a job right after my first son was born, just like an 8 to 5 type of thing, as a producer. I was still doing my freelancing, but for 2 years I did kind of a job thing to try that out, just to get some more experience in that field, since it wasn't where my degree was. But, so, you know, he was home with me for a couple years. Then my youngest went to just kind of a community, they both went to a community daycare, and then I went to an in-home daycare situation that was very much like a homeschool environment. It was very teaching oriented. Then they went to a charter school, which was also a language school, and then I supplemented with another language school because they were in a Spanish school, but I wanted them to have Mandarin. And then they also started, because they were taking the languages, I didn't want, you know, any of their regular subjects to suffer, so I enrolled them in Kumon. So they've been in Kumon, as long as they've been in school, they've been in Kumon as well. And I'll talk more about that. And what else? Then I pulled one of them, my youngest, I took him out of one language school, the dual language, and I put him in a tri-language private school program. Took him out of that, put him in public school, took my other son out, put him in public school, pulled my oldest son out, put him in a private church school, and more recently I pulled my youngest son out of the school, the public school, and he is now being homeschooled. So I've been through it all, run the gambit, closed the door. Thank you. Close, I mean, really? Really?
Videotaping?
Yes.
Oh.
Close the door.
May I, use your tape?
Can you use what?
Your tape.
What tape?
Packing tape.
No, you can read a book.
Read my book.
Open the door. You can read a book until it's time for you to go to sleep. Close the door, go look on your bookshelf, get a book. Real life, real life, real life. Anyway, it's been a long day. So, where was I? So basically, I just wanted to talk about the whole educational process, the ins, the outs, the ups, the downs, everything. It's a constant day by day fight to a certain degree for me to just maintain the balance in life and work and making sure they have what they need. I very much don't look at the day to day. I really try to focus on the long game. But I kind of had an epiphany a couple of days ago. I woke up and I thought about my grandmother. And my grandmother, for a lot of you who may not know my story, my grandmother raised me because my mom passed when I was 6 years old. And she had, and I never knew my dad at that point. And she had lost her husband and her only child, my mother, 11 months apart. Please don't. Please don't. No. Just like, why do you keep bothering me, child? I'm just really trying to do this.
You just started on a new one?
Huh?
You just
Are the
started
numbers
on a
rolling?
Oh, 5 now, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm still going. You can have them. Yes.
The rest?
Yes.
That's what I came to ask for.
Okay, go away now.
I'll start a new
Don't
one.
start a new anything. Go away.
What, you're just going to
Go
cut the part where
away.
I came out?
Go away.
Okay. I'm going to need some of your paper.
You can have some paper.
Oh.
Okay.
Fighting.
I don't, leave me alone. Okay, look. Go get the paper. You can get it out of the printer. No more than, how many sheets do you need?
I don't know. How much did I get?
No.
It'll just
I
be
gave you a whole
much.
ream of paper, Torian.
But
That's yours.
I used it all up in a month.
You can have 10 sheets.
Thank you.
10. No
10?
more. Close the door.
Need more than 10.
No. Go away. Just give me a minute. Close the door. Okay. So, I don't know if I'm even going to leave any of that in. I tell you, sometimes I get so frustrated. And, that's just me. I mean, judge me if you like, but oh my God, there are days where I just want to just scream at the top of my lungs. Just about life in general. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh, my grandmother. So she ended up raising me, 6 years old, and she was 70. Her husband had passed 11 months prior. My mom just died, and she lost her only child, and now she's raising her only grandchild. So the one thing that I saw that I was just thinking about was the transition that she went through, because at that stage of her life, she was in retirement mode. I mean, she and my grandfather lived in a retirement community. It was like a really, really tall, high-rise in Columbus, Ohio. It's since been torn down, but it was a retirement community. I mean, everybody was probably, 60, 65 and older in that building. And sweet people, but they were in that life stage where they're just rest and relax, and they had kind of the community room downstairs where they would like do arts and crafts and things like that. And what she told me was, the building manager said, I understand, Mrs. Smith, what you're going through, and you can keep your granddaughter here as long as you need. But my grandmother very quickly decided to move. She knew that that was not the environment that I needed, as far as being a kid and being around all of these elderly people. She wanted me to be around children. So she very much believed in putting me in a better environment that would be conducive for me. Not necessarily for her, the life stage she was in, but because she was taking on the responsibility of raising me. So we moved. That was a big, that was another story. Where we ended up moving wasn't what she thought it would be. But there were lots of kids, and it was a different environment. It was very much a community, a village, like literally. It was called Pondexter Village for those of you who are familiar with Columbus, Ohio. But anyway, she moved, and what also she did, because it's just me and her in the household, she sent me to spend a lot of time with some women who were around my mother's age. They were just the most wonderful influence on me. They were like my 3 godmothers. And on the weekends, I was with them for the most part. We spent time together. They took me everywhere. They had a nephew my age, so we all hung out. They had other nieces and nephews, so I spent a lot of time with them. We went skating every Saturday. They were like in amateur volleyball league. We would hang out with them. I mean, just everything. They took us out to eat all the time. So I was around women that were like my mother's age. Then during the summers, she sent me to stay with my cousins in Cleveland. And my aunt and uncle and my 2 older cousins, they had the very nuclear family, the 2 girls, and it was just good for me to see. And I never really thought about that, like how genius it was for my grandmother to put me in environments that I could see something different. So summers I stayed in Cleveland. I took swim lessons, it felt like every summer when I went up there. Went around with my aunt and uncle and my cousins, hung out with them. I was always the baby, but just looked up to my older cousins. I had cousins in Columbus as well that we always spent holidays with. And I was always around just such wonderful positive influences and got to see something different. I got to see younger people. Since I had no siblings, she knew the importance of putting me around it. And then even one summer she sent me to a sleepaway camp. I don't remember any other kids that looked like me at that particular camp, but she sent me to a week of this Christian camp that I still have the best memories about that experience. I still remember it. Like, it impacted me so much, that one little week. So I thought it was genius. I mean, my grandmother had an 8th grade education, yet she was an entrepreneur. She had her own hair studio, beauty shop in her home. She did everybody's hair. And her husband was a doctor, was a podiatrist, my grandfather. But when he passed and she took on the responsibility of raising me, she was there all the time. She was retired, but she knew that I had to see more. And I look at how genius that was. So I just wanted to start off with the whole concept of, if you want your children, my philosophy, you know, is I want my children to be better than me. I want them to attain and go far beyond any achievement that I've ever had. So I'm going to have to, for one, expose them to something different, way beyond what I had. But the thing is, I was thinking about it, I said, if you want your children to be just like you are, you have to expose them almost just like, if you expose them to just what you had, they'll be very similar to you. But maybe you're not even in a situation where they get what you got. Like, for instance, maybe you were raised in a 2-parent home with siblings and all that, but you find yourself in a situation where you're alone raising your children. And it's almost like they're not necessarily going to get it through osmosis, because you think, oh, well, that was how I was raised. You know, they're going to get some of the concepts that I, grew up knowing, but it doesn't necessarily work that way. It's like they have to have a similar experience. And I think my grandmother kind of knew that, like, I wasn't going to have maybe the appreciation or the vision to see that this is something attainable and possible, because it wasn't necessarily around me where she was. So she put me in those situations. So I just want to leave you with that. I just had a few thoughts about it. Maybe I'll share some more about just the whole, if you want your kids. I loved that. I just thought about that. I said, if I want them to be better than me, or, attain or go far beyond, not necessarily better, but go beyond where I am, I'm going to have to expose them beyond what I was exposed to. And, yeah, so that's all I'm going to say about that. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to try to do this some more, maybe not so formal where I actually set up the lights and camera and all that. It'll probably maybe just be from my car and things like that. But I just wanted to just kind of lay a groundwork for some of the things I've been through and some of the experiences and my kind of perceived view of education and the best modes and methods. So thanks so much.